So, now we're going to talk about some software, show you some software. I've got my friend and colleague, Mr. Tom Bevan here.
Morning.
We're going to talk a little bit to start with about Outlook. Many of you saw last year, Microsoft brought out this Outlook client. It's fantastically brilliant. And we're just going to show you a few extensions to that are coming out in, again, some of this stuff is coming out on either the next version in December or the spring version. Okay.
Wonderful.
So, you're starting in Office 365, Ms. Bevan.
Absolutely. I was a little bit worried that I wasn't going to come on given this morning's problems, but it looks like we're all good to go. So yes, thanks very much, Ian. So one of the things that's changed dramatically over the last few years is Microsoft's put a huge amount of effort into not just developing Nav and taking it forwards and making it better, but also making sure it's integrated and plugs together with the other Office 365 applications. So just as a quick raise, how many people are using Office 365 at the moment? The vast majority. So it'll come as no surprise that a few of these things that we're going to show in this session, which Microsoft has integrated into Nav, will be coming out of 365. So things like Power BI, things like Power Apps, things like Flow. So there's a number of different things which we can talk about. So first thing is Outlook. So last year, we had the Outlook client, which we thought was one of the most amazing things. Being able to combine the two worlds of a business processing application with Outlook. You know, most of us who might be in sales would sit with an Outlook the whole time, but wouldn't want to jump into Nav, and vice versa. So being able to have the two things together in one place is very, very powerful. So what we now have is some slightly more intelligent action as well. So one of my customers, Andy Teal, has just sent us an email asking for a quote. He said, thanks for sorting out the last order so quickly. I wonder how you can turn them around so quickly. Must be because they're Nav users, perhaps. So we have already seen this. So Nav sitting inside of Outlook. I'm sure most of you have seen this already. You can see a few new little extras as well from the Nav people. Panel viewer. I think Paul's going to touch on that later on as well. So we can start using this not just to do things from the app, but also intelligently doing it from the app. So if I want to see this as a quote, somebody wants a quote, I can click New Sales Quote. And the intelligence here, the AI component of it, is that Nav is, in the next upcoming release, able to read what's in the email body itself. And then from reading the email body itself, it can take the content, understand what it is, looks at our item list, and then automatically updates the lines. So imagine we have a huge long list on a quote that someone's asking for. Immediately we can create it, and then within a couple of seconds, we can then send it straight out by email to my customer. Who's then going to go and receive his email. Now, this is always a bit about doing live demos. You've got to wait for emails to come through. So there might be a little bit of a, here's one I prepared earlier in Blue Peter fashion. So the customer's going to receive the quote. So from there, we can go and look at the quote itself. I can go and very quickly see what's actually happening with it. Let's do it in Outlook itself. So I've got my quote. You won't believe this, we tested this about 1 million times yesterday, but I think, judging by what happened this morning, we've not sacrificed enough goats to the gods of demo this week. So we've got our sales quote. We can then go and reply. So from here, I can go and reply to the email. I can go and reply and say, that looks. Can we please order? So from there, what's going to happen is we can come straight back into Outlook again. Let's get rid of that one. Come back in. We can now see what's going on with it. And with our document links, we can actually go and actually convert that to an order itself as well. So from here, we can do it within the Outlook client, or we could do it within the web client. It's up to you how you want to use it. I've always thought that Outlook's one of the few 365 apps that people quite like using when it's a sort of native sense sitting on a desktop client. But it's completely up to you how you want to use it. From here, we can see the contact insights, which gives us contextual data and brings it into the application itself. So from here, I can go and view outstanding quotes. I can then go pick the quote, and then straight away, we can go and make it into an order. So in terms of a process that might have taken longer, understanding what prices are, understanding what the customer looks like, we can actually do this whole process much, much more quickly now within tools that Microsoft have given us to make the world of Outlook and 365 come back together again. Okay, So that's pretty much it on the Outlook side of things. I think we're quite excited about it. I hope it's something that you're excited as well. He says that's there we go.
There you go. So, the next thing we're going to touch on is we always, every time a nav comes out, every year we hope there's a new client. So there was the web client, then there was the phone client, and the tablet client, and the Outlook client. This is the nearest thing that we can scrape together as being the new client. So, but we love this. We think it's a great feature. Everybody loves Excel. So it's another way to interact with nav. Okay. Nav, as we know and love, we have the word financials there, but as we know, it's the same thing. So what we're going to do is we have always had for a long time now the ability to integrate nav to Excel. We've been able to take any page list or report, take it, and then automatically send it out to Excel, and then look at it and manipulate it if we wanted to. But what's always been missing is the data coming back the other way, is that kind of live link between the two. Some people might say, oh, we can do that already. I can go to a journal, and I can copy all the lines out, and I can paste it into Excel, and copy it and paste it back in again. That's also pretty cool. I mean, actually, those third of you on Classic will find that quite incredible. But hopefully this is a little bit better. So we can do this pretty much on any list. This is a customer list. This changed last year as well. We have this new ways of looking at lists. So we have image views of lists. We have what's called a brick view, and a good old-fashioned list as well. Now, sometimes if you want to bulk update or bulk change data, although nav is great for managing the data, bulk change of data, we still like to use things in Excel because it's something we know and love. So we can pump it out to Excel. And I can go and see my customer card in Excel. It's interesting, one of the features we'll talk to Klaus about, at the moment, because it's using a web service call, it actually brings all the fields off the customer list. It doesn't respect the fact you've hidden some fields and so on. So it brings all the fields in. This is why you see there's lots of fields there.
It's arguable if it's a good or a bad thing. Sometimes you might not want to have all that data. If you're doing bulk data management, you might want to have all of it. I guess it's a choice you could make. But the cool thing is it's taking contextual information from nav. So if I'm in a date field, I have the date picker. If I'm looking at things like salesperson codes or names, we can customize, change things, and then bulk update it. So if I want to go and take Peter Sado and change the salesperson code across a number of different people, I can, which is fine. But if I go and try and put in somebody called TB, we know there's no salesperson called TB. If I try and publish that back to nav, what it will now do is it's going to go and check nav, and it's going to go and look against the validation. So one of the things you'll say is, if I'm editing things in Excel rather than in nav, where's the checking? So they've built this in now. So we have a validation so it can see where there's errors. So I can come and see this line highlighted as red. I can go and change it. I can go and update it back to a proper salesperson. Publish it. It's going to analyze those data changes, publish it, and then it's going to actually go and write it back into nav. So back into the system, I can go and pick up one of my customers, and you can see now that the salesperson code's been changed to Peter Salo. Very nice.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. So I think that's it's clientish, isn't it? Again, so it gives you a place to manipulate things. And I think, again, it'll start changing how we use some of these things because, if you've got a journal, you can always key the journal into Excel and press that button. That's probably just a much nicer place to do your journaling. So embedding Power BI. We talk a lot about Power BI in our industry at the moment. It's every day it gets better. And having it embedded in nav where you want your information is an important move forward. So that's what we're now going to show you a little bit more about how that can be built into NAV. Tom is going to quickly show that.
Quickly?
Yeah.
Is that a hint that we're running over time?
Yes.
Okay, so what we've got is Power BI is Microsoft have invested a huge amount of money in Power BI now. You can look at Power BI almost like Excel on steroids in lots of ways because they brought in Power Pivot, Power Query, the components that makes Excel very good, but actually made it in a way that looks nice. So if you've got Office 365, you might well have already had a play with it and started using it. But the real magic of what they've done is they've thought, okay, we've got lots of different Microsoft applications. We've got CRM or Microsoft Dynamics 365 for sales, or you've got Nav. And we've got data sitting either on the common data platform or accessible via OData. So there's lots of ways of getting at the information. So what Microsoft has done is built some services. Now, we could sit there, write a query in Nav, publish the query, make it available, pull it down and connect to it. But quite easily we can see that we've actually now got financials. They've pre-created a bunch of lists for us. Now, we know there's no such thing as a standard BI implementation. Everybody wants slightly different information from one person to another. But actually, a lot of people quite like to have the same starting point. So given that we've not got much time, we're not going to go through the connection process. But what we'll do is we'll show you some kind of, in, again, Blue Peter fashion, here's one we prepared earlier. So this is a standard connection coming through from Nav. This is a dashboard. And then from the dashboard, we can go and drill down to data that sits underneath it. Now, it's all well and good if it's sitting out in 365. But what Microsoft did last year is they brought us the ability to be able to embed that into Nav itself. So coming to my role center. Now, we're going to talk about role centers and customization. I'm going to touch on it a bit later on, but I think Paul's is going to be much, much more exciting. So you can see here we now have the ability to embed Power BI reports. So I've already created a bunch of different settings which I can pull through. So if I go and edit my list, I'm going to just enable all of these. So we've got a number of different reports. Now, because it's all sitting on the same system, because we're using Azure Active Directory, and because everybody's on the same system as Office 365 and Nav, we've got that one single sign-on. We're not having to jump between different logins or different systems. Everything's all just there for us. So if we're using things like Flow, like Power Apps, like Power BI, like things like Excel and Outlook, it just all works. So we now have the ability to pull down that into our documents. So we can start seeing Power BI data. If you wanted to, you can actually expand the report out and pop it out. So if you've got more detailed data, we're actually accessing Power BI information without even leaving Nav itself. Everything's just available to us. And you have the power of Power BI to do more detailed analysis of that information. But in addition to that, what we've also got now is we kind of had that a little bit last year. They've gone a bit further with it this year. So we have now contextual information sitting in lists and cards. So if I'm looking at a sales order list, I can now actually pull through, I can go and look at a particular customer record, and in this case, we have a Power BI report, which is looking at Nav data, that's looking at the lines related to this particular sales order and the items that we've sold. So we can start seeing richer data sitting within the system itself. If you're looking at things like customer records, it's nice to know what's going on with a customer, how they're performing. So if I go and look at a customer list, we can see our nice pretty customer list again. And as we hover over them, what you can see now is I've got metrics coming from Power BI, which are pulling through information about their sales activity. So I can start to see what their balance is, what their credit limits are, and I can drill down and see more detailed information about the customer. So if that was quick, I think I'm catching up on time slightly. So moving swiftly on.
So again, I think it's just putting that Power BI, stopping it being, why should BI be outside of Nav thing, have the information built into Nav. Importantly, that Power BI stuff can still be taking its data from other places like BI Cubes. Go to the Jet reports thing this afternoon. Our recommendation, if you're looking at Power BI, is it needs to sit on top of a data warehouse with some cubes, especially if you're any decent sort of size database, and Jet reports is the right way to do that.